from the restaurant group that brought you 82 Queen and Florence's Lowcountry kitchen has now added an authentic Mexican eatery on James Island called Jalisco. I sat down exclusively with the executive chef of Jalisco, Michael Harvey, for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and download my free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Chef Michael Harvey, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Obviously, you're the executive chef here at Jalisco, here on James Island. And I want to go back to the Charleston City paper in which they wrote about this particular restaurant before it opened a couple of months ago. And it reads this: located at 1271 Farley Road, the authentic Mexican eatery replaces the short-lived James restaurant, which replaces the 4-year-old Screen Door restaurant this spring. According to the press release, the restaurant's inception, Jalisco, was inspired by Queen Street Hospitality Group CEO and James Island resident Jonathan Kiss during his time spent in Arizona and Mexico. When you think of Mexico and James Island, where does your mind go to?
Mexico and James Island. Well, I'll start with this. James Island, definitely from the local clientele, has definitely been starving for really great restaurant that's family driven, family oriented, something that's quality. They see value in it, and a good alternative to other places on the island, because it seems like a consistent theme is they haven't had a really good restaurant that stays around for very long for them to go to. So as far as Mexico and James Island, I mean, the concept basically is something that Jonathan and I have talked about for years, because we both are very passionate about especially authentic Mexican food, which is really hard to find in Charleston. There are a few restaurants downtown, but you know, a lot of people, James Island, I live on John's Island, you know, we don't like to leave our islands as much, right? Especially with parking downtown, as great as downtown is. But you know, so to bring something authentic that is more reachable for our clientele, and even maybe the clientele of John's Island, which isn't very far away, and even Q and Seabrook, bringing them something a little. We have more parking, more accessible than, say, having to make the trip downtown. But to bring something completely authentic, drawing from Jalisco and Puebla and Oaxaca and Mexico City, and that's been the biggest challenge, is the education of the customer necessarily to something that already exists, that like a lot of the other Tex-Mex restaurants that already exist in the area. So,
what do you want to educate the average customer about when it comes to Mexico, and how you do with your food?
Okay, so most importantly, the variety of dynamic flavors and dishes that you do not get from most Tex-Mex restaurants, Americanized restaurants, it's really incredible, the amount of flavors and different dishes that most people haven't even heard of, that as soon as I put them out there, they really gravitate towards them. So like, for instance, pupusas, like we ran as a special for a week, which is like the masa harina, like what we make handmade tamales, which, you know, a lot of people have heard of tamales,
yes,
but they've never heard of pupusas. Well, pupusas are like it almost looks like a hockey puck out of masa harina, but we filled it with a lamb barbacoa, did it with a bone marrow salsa, a little escabeche, and it's sold like hotcakes. I mean, it was really well received. But there's something, you know, a lot of people are like, what is that? But once they had it, you know, and so drawing these, like, even like from very authentic dishes that maybe Mexican grandmothers and mothers made at home, to things that are a little more advanced, and drawing from even like Pujol with Enrique. So like it's kind of a combo of at-home comfort food for Mexicans and the Hispanics, but also, like, you know, taking it to another little level also. But you know, that's reflective in like our tortillas. You know, like if you talk to a lot of people that live in Mexico, the meat is almost the afterthought, where It's one all about the tortilla,
Right.
and I'd love to talk about the tortillas, but the tortillas are amazing that we use. And then the next is the salsas, and just like I'm classically French trained. As important as like being a saucier and sauce making is to classic French food, salsas is the same thing to Mexican food, authentic Mexican. Okay, so like big dynamic flavors, covering a gambit of not just spice but depth of flavor, and sweet and fruity and sour, and all the different flavor components that come with that. And then it's almost the meat at that point. And in our tacos, even though we do get comments on the size of the shells, but the value there is not only the quality of the tortilla and the work and the dynamic flavors of the salsas, but also the quality of the protein, and that's pretty much what's just on the shell. Is a substantial amount of protein on those taco shells.
Taco shells. Obviously, you mentioned you're French trained, and I know you've been with the Quintin Hospitality Group for many, many years.
Yep.
Who else is Executive Chef Harvey?
Who else? As in, like, as far as my career as a chef?
Yes, sir.
So, I did stages at Le Bernardin. I did stages at Per Se in New York. I was a chef up on Cape Cod for years, in Massachusetts, obviously. And then I was looking at taking an executive chef position out in California, but through other people, I ended up coming down and with Tom Colicchio as my consulting chef out at Cacique. I moved down here and was chef de cuisine and initially sous chef at Cacique on Kilo. It was the newest of the private clubhouses at that time, and we dabbled in all cuisines, and it was a really great culinary experience because not only did we bring in the best of the best products, and we treated everything with respect food-wise, just like I trained the staff here. We didn't cut corners. We don't try to manipulate food so much you don't know what it is anymore. So those, we dabbled in all cuisines out there, and it was a great experience. And then I moved on from that to being almost like a chef tournant, kind of like a group chef for Nico when it was Patrick Properties,
Right.
and Nico was the culinary director there.
Yeah.
And I worked hard on the catering aspect, and I worked hard on the restaurant aspect. And again, like especially through the catering, we dabbled in a lot of different. I remember we did a 3-day Indian wedding, and it was not just Indian food; it was Southern twists on Indian food. And it was really, the experiences were really awesome. So, I can get bored a little easy, so I like the change of pace all the time, which is why here we keep the menu. We've already changed the menu 4 times, and we got more stuff to put on there, and I've got a list of a ton more things that we really want to dabble into. Is slowly our clientele gets more and more educated and maybe less apprehensive about things that maybe they're not as familiar with.
I know, obviously, when it comes to wine and food, you'll be dabbling in a lot of things. What, from your experience, can we see here at Wine and Food this year?
This year, I'm just doing opening night because the restaurant was still fairly new, so I'm here a substantial amount. As far as wine and food, it's going to be a play on the pupusa we're going to do with the taco shells. I use authentic, non-GMO, all organic blue corn tortillas that we get through Meatla. They're down now in Savannah, and I can't speak highly enough about Meatla Tortilla. It's a husband and wife team, and they do a phenomenal job. There's definitely big value in the tortillas. Sometimes I got to convince some of the clientele to try it. They're not the average corn tortilla, and but there's put a lot of pride in that corn tortilla. Same thing, we get a larger yellow corn tortilla for the entrees at night. So we'll be using those blue corn tortillas. We'll do the lamb barbacoa because everybody took to it so well, and I think it'll be a big hit at the Food and Wine Festival. I'm making the bone marrow salsa, which has a lot of depth of flavor from the chiles I use in it. Like we'll use moritas and some mulattoes, and give it kind of a smoky, nice spice undertone, but yet there's this unctuous, savory quality to it from the bone marrow into the salsa that's absolutely amazing. So it's just like that taco is just this unctuous explosion of just flavors that is absolutely fantastic, balanced with the little bitter from the cilantro and the sweet sour of little raw onion. it's all the flavors: salt, sweet, sour, bitter, savory. It's all in one encapsulated taco.
I know that you all have changed your menu here at least 4 times. What particular menu item describes you the best as a chef?
That's tough. There's a few. I would say one. Let me take on 3.
Sure,
okay.
sure.
I'd say one is the al pastor. So a lot of places sell al pastor, but authentic al pastor is done on a trompo, which is like a spin. Okay. A lot of people do it in the oven. If you do it in the oven, you don't really have truly al pastor. What you have is what's adobada. So what we offer here is pork side. We shave it thin to build the trompo, and we marinate it for at least 4 to 5 days. But it sits in the marinade. The mulattoes, the maritas, it gets chipotles and a little bit of ancho. And that all that flavor builds up over days. We build the trompo, and then you get a nice little bit of a char on the outside, a good caramelization as the marinade effect takes effect, and we bring sugars to the surface, get a nice caramelization on the outside. And the marinade also involves pineapple juice and some other acidic components to tenderize the meat, and then we have the pineapple on top. So every al pastor gets a little slice of pineapple. So that again. If we talk about a well-rounded dish, man, that's got it all. It's got sweet, sour, bitter, salt, umami. It is a well-rounded taco, and people love the fact it's got the pineapple. They like that little sweetness to the dish. But the other 2 is definitely the chiles rellenos and the tamales. I make at least probably 50 or 60 tamales by hand every day.
Wow.
Our tamales, unlike a lot, ours is a lot more flavorful and moist because I use the same carnitas fat that we do the carnitas, almost like pork confit. I use that fat to whip almost into like an icing and fold that into the masa harina. So it adds an even more complex depth of flavor into the masa harina dough for the tamales, which then are filled with carnitas and rajas without the Mexican crema because it would break, obviously. But so the tamales are big, they're handmade, make them fresh every day. And same thing, chiles rellenos. A lot of places will cheat, and use mozzarella cheese, and that's it. Maybe you go in somewhere and you get just cheese rellenos, and that's your only option. What I tried to do here was we source Oaxacan cheese, and you can. So it's 2 rellenos per plate. You can just get cheese, but we also got the addition with the cheese to add either barbacoa, chicken adobada, or the carnitas in with the Oaxacan cheese. So you can mix and match. You have 1 carnitas, 1 barbacoa, and we make the batter on average about once an hour because it's a non-stable batter. It's basically like a meringue that we fold in a little flour, a little leavener, try to season it so it completely encapsulates the chiles. And what we have is a very large chiles relleno, so it's more than just a little bit of cheese in there. They are ample amount of cheese, real Oaxacan cheese, plus the dynamic flavors of each of those meats. Barbacoa being a lot more clove and not as hot spicy. The carnitas being very unctuous and having a little bit of citrus background flavor to it, and then the chicken adobada, which has a little bit of spice to it, but it's still its own sauce, and very flavorful. All of them very flavorful. Yeah.
Okay, let me get back to the menu again, because obviously I'm sure you've tasted almost everything on the menu.
Absolutely, almost every day. Yeah.
Wow. What's one of those foods made you say, "Hey, I want to go to Mexico. I want to go to Oaxaca. I want to go to Mexico City"?
Which one on the menu?
Yes, sir.
All of them. When you look at Mexico, it's in studying this, and so a lot of taquerias in Mexico, they specialize in one thing. Mexico City, 6 very famous al pastor restaurants, 2 that are right across the street from each other, right? And they're known for their al pastor, and that's what they do, and they do it unbelievably, right? So I want to go to Mexico City and eat at all the al pastor places, But then you get into Jalisco, the carnitas in Jalisco, probably better than almost anywhere else in Mexico, And they do it right, and we do it their style, where true carnitas isn't just pulled pork. We season the fat. It's got right now we're using citramelo. And some different clove and onion and garlic, and it's got a really unctuous flavor to it, and The carnitas should be kind of pulled but still chunky and very crispy on the outside, which you generally don't see if you go to other places. You get carnitas, it won't have that really nice crispy outside, very moist, and have more than just like, say, pulled pork in a taco, right? So all of the main, like the barbacoas, the carne asada, the al pastor, carnitas, all these things have homes in Mexico, and they're unique to different regions. Even when we get into like our tacos de la canasta, which we're going to put that program out soon, and I just do it for the kids right now, the basket tacos, and so in Mexico they take tortillas, and it's very simple fillings. It's built more for like the more poor college students, young entrepreneurs trying to get going, don't have a lot of money, but like they don't say you find tacos de la canasta finds you. They on the back of bicycles, 500 to 750 tacos, so just fold it up. And again, it's all about just a good filling, a good tortilla, and then you pick the salsa you want, and they're fairly inexpensive. And we're going to try to attack that as like a good to-go route for us out of here for like going to the beach, maybe have a picnic, about like 24, 36, just very simple tacos, just a little bit of filling in there. The salsas, they're not very messy, very easy to eat, kid-friendly, even, so, yeah.
Hey, what is the biggest difference between grand opening and right now about this restaurant?
Well, we just had the grand opening. As we do in this restaurant group, we generally try to work out opening a restaurant is very arduous. A lot of time, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears by everybody. Myself, my Suze, my whole team, the ownership, the front of the house staff, my marketing people. Everybody's, rolling on all cylinders. And so, we've spent months, working out all the kinks, and then finally here's the grand open, and we had a great reception here for our grand open the other day, and I think people are finally starting to understand what this place is about, the authenticity and celebrating what is Mexican cuisine and truly authentic Mexican culture, and bringing that through the food, again, through the dynamic flavors, and everything stands out on its own. Nothing really tastes like anything else on the menu, if that makes sense.
Sure.
We make, with the exception of the tortillas, we make everything from scratch. Even our chili powder. It's Jalisco chili powder. I have my own recipe. I don't buy chili powder pre-made. It's using my own chili, so I have in the back certain ratios and seasons. So everything is from scratch.
From scratch. I know I've interviewed, Steve Palmer and Anthony DiBonanno and all those folks, Michael Messenger, and I've asked them, what is the state of restaurants right now? When you look at it, what do you say?
I think it's, okay. There is a saturation in the area of restaurants, absolutely. In the amount of talent, especially at the non-sous chef level, is very hard to come by. It didn't help that Johnny Wales left. Trident Art Institute both do well. We appreciate what they do, but there's definitely a need for younger people, when I was that age, that have the hunger to learn the craft and understand what it's about. Being in this business and being, say, a line cook is like cutting your teeth. It's learning something that is unlike any other business, and it's hard work. There's no getting around that. It's extremely hard work. It's long hours, and there's a big learning curve. I think what I offer personally in that aspect is that I love teaching people that show ambition and a want to learn, and I can talk about food all day long. And I talk about with my staff is constantly training. It's flavor and textures and what are mother sauces, what are the 5 flavors, et cetera, and explaining why we're doing things rather than just saying here's a recipe, go for it. but rather explaining why the recipe's written the way it is, why you're doing things in the order you're doing them. And if someone has that kind of passion and picks up on it, that helps them embrace what is this unique working environment and culture that is like a restaurant.
And I want to come back to the restaurant in the next 6 months. And if I were to interview you one-on-one, what would you say about Jalisco then?
I would say that number one, that we will absolutely stay true to authentic Mexican cuisine and the quality of food that we're putting out here. Those are two of my main goals, is like quality and authenticity. And with that, comes a price point. So yes, we're not the cheapest taqueria, but what we do offer to offset that is quality that is almost unmatched anywhere in Charleston.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, Executive Chef Michael Harvey, thank you for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin.
Thank you. Yes, sir.